this is something that you cannot resist at all. Thing is, Elijah of Buxton by Christopher Paul Curtis. This guy actually did a pretty good job writing this down. This book. This book was written in 2007, and it did a good job portraying how the Buxton colony seemed to be living at the time. Now, what is basically happening in Buxton? Now, first of all, let me get this straight. Buxton is a real place. And there is something else that seems to be going on when we're actually talking about Buxton. The thing is, Elijah of Buxton, Elijah probably isn't a real person. That Elijah is a fictional person. However, Buxton is a real place. And Elijah of Buxton, he does a very good job when it comes to actually portraying one of the first freeborn person of the colony, where usually this colony was actually made from by a guy named Reverend King, not Martin Luther King Jr., but a guy named Reverend King who created this colony and didn't think that the American slaves that he was escaping with from America was a safe place. And so they decided that they really needed a new place to live in, so they decided to go to Canada instead of what they called the cruel place of America for slaves, at least back then. And then they basically they bought a patch of land in Canada, and basically after that, they lived there. They let escaped slaves, people who actually bought their ways out, or people who used to be slaves but are now free. They decided to come into this place. They escaped to Canada and they went to Buxton, and they were very awesome too. And now there were these guys who decided that they should have at least some freeborn people on this colony. Now Elijah is the first freeborn, a non-slave on the colony, and that is just something that I can handle right now. And this is just basically the intro. Buxton. Basically, what I'm trying to say is Buxton's a real place. Slaves are here. Escaped slaves are here. People are trying to buy their families out. And some cruel things sometimes happen here. And the best of all, America has no control over how the colony is run. So, that's nice. At least that's nice. Now let's get on with the plot and analysis. There's this boy named Elijah who is called Fragile because there's a spider, there's a snake. I don't really understand why that's called Fragile, but sure, why not? And will basically want to do anything to show that he's not fragile. He's basically the first freeborn person on this colony that's not a slave, and is an African. Technically, they still call him African. Also, technically he's African American. Let's just keep on going ahead, and now let's start talking more about this other part. Basically, there's this guy who calls himself the preacher, and he, to be honest, kind of looks shifty from the start. I mean, he basically cheated Elijah to giving him 10% of 10 fish, which is supposed to be 1 fish, but instead he somehow made Elijah think that it was 4 fish, and then Elijah finally realized, like, what? How is that 10%? That's 40%! You're cheating me, preacher! And that's something to really be thinking about too. He tried to get Elijah to go against his parents' wishes, which is bad, and eventually we actually prove that the guy actually stole someone's gold that person was saving up to actually buy his family out of captivity. Basically get to Buxton. And this is something that's been bothering me right now. I mean, Elijah of Buxton, that's something to be considering about. But all I can say about Elijah of Buxton is that there's nothing about Buxton that seems to be that cool. I mean, sure, it's cool. Obviously, it's the first place where slaves could go to. However, there are some faults I see in it. At least in the book, they start trusting people that don't even live in the colony. And another part is where the kids, they have a school. At least they're self-sufficient. That's something. They're self-sufficient, at least. That's cool. But one thing that's not cool, alright, is the fact that they're people who are actually escaped slaves and shouldn't actually be there, to be honest. one thing I do know about the at least they call white people back then, at least in the book they call white people, is that these guys may not know how to do the work, but they do know how to keep slaves. And slaves have been around for such a long time that it seems like the norm. So I don't really see the big problem here, but I guess we'll just have to look and find out about it. And I'm gonna try to analyze this part. I guess this book's trying to tell us that this slavery part is unfair. Buxton is one of the best places in the world for slaves, at least in America. And it's such a cool and fair place. I mean, it seems awesome too. And it's like a little hope. When you feel like you don't have anything, you somehow find a place where there's hope. Sometimes if you wish it hard enough, your dreams will actually find you. Which is good for everyone. And why should you read this book? I guess you should read this book for entertainment purposes, of course, and also to learn about the history of Buxton, a place where maybe not most people would ever have heard of. However, you should also read this book to learn more about this little meaning inside about hope and dreams. If you dream it hard enough, you might actually get it. Your dreams, if you hope for it and you want it badly, then your dreams have a way of finding you. Also, that doesn't mean they always work. Sometimes a little bit of luck is all you need. But you do need to stop pestering your luck once you find some luck. Yeah. So in conclusion, this book, Elijah of Buxton, is about a freeborn person, the guy on the cover, called Elijah in a settlement called Buxton in Canada, who tries to help some people escape into Buxton so that they wouldn't be slaves anymore. And yeah, trying to learn how not to be fragile, teaches you how not to be fragile, at least how not to be fragile in the 19th century. And also teaches us that there's always hope somewhere. Darkness can't exist without light, and light can't exist without darkness. One more thing. It also teaches us that our dreams, if you wish for it hard enough, you'll gain it. You'll get it. Your dreams will somehow find you. So that is the end of today's episode. I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode, and I hope to see you guys on my next episode too. So, Shannon out. Peace. America!